We are moving on and talking about foreign-born doctors. Now, would it bother you if your doctor was not born here? Would you always prefer to be seen by a British doctor? And should this really even be an issue? Well, the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, will outline plans today making the NHS in England, as he says, self-sufficient in homegrown doctors within the next 10 years. He is committing £100 million to fund more medical school places. Now, obviously, the Tory government think that it's very important to have homegrown doctors for a number of reasons. This is also partly to do, I suppose, with the ageing population. The more people you have needing hospital treatment, the more doctors you will need. But this term, foreign-born doctor, is that something that strikes a chord with you? Do you think there's something more going on with, I suppose, the Conservative Party announcement that more places will be opened up for medical students in order to learn the ropes, to study, to graduate, and also then to carry on treating British people? Is there something else going on here? Let's speak to my guests, Dr. Kishan Rees, a junior doctor in Lincolnshire, and teacher Sagir Afzal. Afternoon to both of you.
Good afternoon.
Let's start with Dr. Kishan Rees. What do you make of these Conservative Party plans to announce more plans for more places for doctors?
Sure. I mean, I think there is something else going on. I think you hit the nail on the head, Shitwell, in the sense that they've got they're burying bad news in the sense that there's a contract that's being imposed tomorrow. And I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the contract because it's not just that, but it's a key issue to consider because it's distracting from the imposition. And these guys are experts at burying bad news, and you can't get any more.
Well, you could argue that all governments do that, don't they? Eventually, it's
absolutely,
not just the Conservative
absolutely,
Party.
Yeah. No. I think all governments are experts in burying bad news. And it's just unfortunate that this is, something that is vital to the health of the nation in terms of the NHS. Is under very real threat because at the moment there's numerous wrecking balls being lined up. One is the junior doctor's contract, one is removing nursing bursaries, another one is the consultant contract that's coming into the negotiation. And you have to ask the question, do you think Jeremy Hunt would have made this announcement had the BMA not bottled it in terms of strike action? And
well, hold on a second, because the BMA isn't here to represent themselves, and I understand where you stand on this, obviously, as a junior doctor. We should also say that a High Court judge looked at all the evidence before him and decided that it wasn't going to be illegal to impose this contract.
What the High Court judge said was that what said in the hurly-burly of Parliament cannot be taken as read, and I think that's a real shame because there's numerous footage, numerous clips in Parliament and in the media where Jeremy Hunt is saying that he plans to impose this contract.
Well, yeah, he said it several months ago that the contract would be implemented regardless of the strike. So therefore, it shouldn't really be a surprise to you, should it, that actually the imposition of the contract was going to come in anyway?
I think it shouldn't have been a surprise for the BMA, and the BMA have had. Well, we're not going to talk about the BMA.
No, let's not.
I don't want to get you guys in trouble. But boiling it down to the dispute in terms of what you're saying now, what the whole point is, I think it's a real shame that the issue of somebody's passport is becoming the media narrative about this, because I know doctors from abroad that are my friends and my colleagues, and they give just as much to the NHS as a British-born doctor. And something that will relate to your listeners in the sense that it was only a few years ago, and I think it was either David Cameron's administration or the coalition, they changed overnight the Tier 2 visa restrictions where they said that an Indian doctor had to have, I don't know, something like £35,000, £40,000 in the bank.
Yeah, it's under 40,000. It's under 40. It's under 40. You're right, yeah, the Tier 2, it did change then, yeah.
And what happened then is doctors, Indian doctors that are propping up the health service and have provided excellent service, they've left. And it's all very well, it is a good thing to get more medical students, that's fine. But what isn't being reported is these medical students are going to come on tap in a decade's time.
There have been instances, Dr. Rees, though, of doctors, and I understand that they're few and far between, but there have been instances where doctors have misdiagnosed and they haven't necessarily been able to communicate properly, which is why previous governments brought in exams for doctors to be able to communicate in English.
Absolutely, and that's really important. And there was that infamous case of the German locum doctor who came over. He overdosed somebody on morphine, and this lady sadly died as a result. So I absolutely agree that it's a concern, but it is a minority of cases, and it is a distraction from the overall picture of what's happening to our health service.
Okay, all right, stay there if you can, Dr. Rees. We've got getting loads of messages. I just want to read this one out very quickly. A WhatsApp from Ranj who says, you need communication from your doctor. Mishearing and not understanding a patient could be life and death. More UK doctors, or at least those who can speak English. Let's go to Sagir Afzal, who's a teacher. Hello, Sagir.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Do you agree that we do need more British-born doctors?
I agree, because I agree with what Kishan said earlier, is that it's only a minority of cases, but those minority of cases very often result in the loss of life. A distant relative of mine had a stomach pain. His doctor was a Nigerian doctor, overseas doctor. The doctor failed to diagnose that it was a cancer, and that his misdiagnosis subsequently led to my distant relative actually passing away. Now, as a doctor previously said, it is a minority of cases, but those minority of cases result in a loss of life. That's when it becomes a dilemma. I mean, a friend of mine prior to your show, about 10 minutes ago, forwarded me an article on the British Medical Journal, which actually specifically states that overseas doctors are found to be significantly lacking in communication skills, and they therefore have a much lower pass rate for the PLAB tests. And the article also says that their underdevelopment as doctors is due to the lack of resources in their own native countries. Now, the NHS, being in the dire predicament that it is in, it doesn't have the resources to customise training programs for these overseas doctors.
Maybe not to customise, Sagir, but they have, previous governments have brought in English exams that you are then able to, as we said with Dr. Rees, that you are able to communicate and you understand levels of terminology which is used in this country. That's right, isn't it, Dr. Rees?
Absolutely. And Sagir, what you said in terms of these people are failing the PLAB, that's actually a good thing, because without passing the PLAB, they're not allowed to work in the NHS. So they need to pass that as a basic, to let them... I think lessons have been learned from things in the past. And, you mentioned about this Nigerian doctor, and it was funny because I was on 5 Live this morning, and there was another Nigerian doctor that was mentioned. I would make the point that it doesn't matter what their passport is, because Dr. Kate Granger was a lady that sadly died. She was a doctor, and she started the Hello, My Name Is campaign. And I think, frankly, it's disgraceful that a campaign like that can gain so much traction, because all it highlights is that there's doctors across the board, whether they be British, Nigerian, Italian, Portuguese, whatever, who are interacting with patients. They're not introducing themselves. They're not saying who they are and what they're going to do. And that is because the pressure in the health service is such that there is so much of a focus on managerial targets that are absolutely meaningless and have no direct correlation to patient care. And if there's one positive that's come out of this junior doctor contract dispute, is there's 60,000 of us that are working in the NHS. We've become interested in politics, we've become interested in management, and we're all going to be working harder towards making a better health service. And if anything, the medical profession have probably been a little bit reticent in getting involved in this. And that is why these changes have been allowed to take place.
Sagir, I just wanted to come back to you on this, because you mentioned, the foreign-born doctor and the misdiagnosis of your friend, or your relative, sorry. The fact is, that could happen with any doctor, and I've certainly heard of misdiagnoses occurring. In fact, I myself was treated by a locum GP who was British, who was more interested in how old I was than listening to the complaint that I had, the medical complaint, and then then actually prescribed me the wrong drug. Now, luckily, I kind of cottoned onto this and didn't take the drug. And it was actually my normal GP that told me I did exactly the right thing, and then she apologised to me. So this could happen at any stage. So it's not just foreign-born doctors that could make this mistake. Surely it's just down to carelessness, isn't it?
I don't think it's always the case. When that misdiagnosis is due to the result of a lack of clarity in the communication, then I think it's a different matter. I mean, another salient point is nowadays a lot of businesses are now desisting from having call centres in India because they've subsequently come to realise that Indian call centres are, because of the lack of communication, because of trouble in understanding accents, they fail to assess and diagnose the customer's problems.
Well, it's also because call centres give a lot of these call centre workers a script that they have to follow, and they're just incredibly infuriating.
That you say about a script, it's interesting that you say that. Medicine is being boiled down into a script and into, the interaction between doctors and patients is dying, in the sense that it is being distilled down to reading questions off a list, and they are moving towards wanting to do that. And I think Andrew Lansley made a quote when he brought in the Health and Social Care Act, and he said, "No decision about me without me." Now, I think it's worth bringing that back up into the debate, because there's so many changes that are happening to health service, and who's talking to the patients about it in terms of whether they actually want this. And, shows like this are good because it gets the conversation out there and it gets the debate going. But I think, we will see a lot of this stuff automated. I was in the Royal Society of Medicine, and I was listening to Professor Sir Bruce Keogh speak, and he was saying the next innovation is going to come from Apple and Google and, these big companies.
Medical apps.
Medical apps, absolutely. How much do the British public want a consultation with a doctor to remain something that is actually, obviously it's expensive to provide, but you get the benefits are absolutely, immense in terms of having that one-on-one interaction.
And it's a basic level of if you like, a sacrosanct relationship as well, isn't it? Between a patient and a doctor, or so you would assume. So many messages have come in. You both may want to respond to this. Mirali says, "Hi, I heard the junior doctor debate. I'm a British citizen currently studying medicine in Hungary. So how would I be treated? I'm still British, and just because I'm graduating in another country, it shouldn't affect me practicing in the UK. If I've passed all the required examinations, then there should be no difference, which is the whole point of them being there in the first place. Therefore, I disagree with what was said about home doctors. Doctors are doctors after all. Some of the best surgeons are from abroad, and therefore how can we be told we won't gain much advantage as the junior doctors will that graduate back in the UK? Therefore, in my opinion, I don't think it's right for me to be differentiated and my practicing skills be questioned just because I gained my degree from abroad." I suppose the question there, Dr. Rees, is, are foreign degrees, medical degrees, are they looked down upon?
I think they're not looked down upon, but there is an important distinction to be made in the sense that there's a difference with the training that some people will get in foreign, kind of say Hungary and things, in terms of the emphasis. From a purely medical sciences point of view, the emphasis is really, really good. They know what they're doing in terms of they've got the knowledge, but an important part of the curriculum in those countries is not clinical skills. So some of the tasks that junior doctors are being asked to undertake in the health service currently are not tasks that would be trained for doctors going through the kind of Hungarian system or the Czech Republic system.
Okay, all right. Sagir, I just want to say to you, if that person, Mirali, was treating you and then you found out that she had gained her degree in Hungary, it kind of blows your argument out of the water a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, no, because when it comes to the point of with a surgeon, when a surgeon is operating, I don't assume there's a lot of dialogue between the surgeon and the patient.
Yeah, but at the operation, no, I completely agree. But the pre-op workup, the post-op follow-up, the kind of consultations with the surgeon in between, that's all critical in terms of the doctor-patient relationship.
It is, but I mean, if the British Medical Journal themselves, they have highlighted the overseas doctors, due to the lack of comparative financial situations in their own country, their training programs, their training methods are not as rigorous as the doctors in this country, then how do you address that deficit?
Okay.
That deficit is
All right.
a very dangerous one.
Okay, Sagir Afzal and Dr. Kishan Rees, we're going to have to end it there. And I'm just going to end on this comment from Dav, who is a pharmacist. Homegrown doctors will give younger people greater opportunities to get into medical schools and allow more universities to open medical schools for training. It's a bigger picture than just the NHS treating patients. Jeremy Hunt has the right idea. It's now just gone 1 o'clock and time for Asian Network Reports with Paul Hawkins.